All right, we're back again. It's week 6 of the roundup of LGAHLPSN. It's Tony Sibilla, otherwise known as T. Sibs. You've got Vihai and Miranda Conda here as well. Gentlemen, welcome again.
Thank you, Sibs. Thanks for having us. Glad to be here, buddy.
Always ready to go.
All right, well, it was another interesting week. A couple of big matchups, certainly, that we talked about last week, and I'm starting to see some separation in maybe a couple of the other divisions. The East, though, if you look at what happened this week, you had a couple of teams that were barely over 500. Everybody else had battles this week, and it was a tough week for the East. And so the playoff races are still not any different there, but there may be some stretching out of what's going on in the West. Of course, Rockford's still humming along. Plenty to talk about this week. And Mike, why don't you start off with what we're going to be doing tomorrow? I guess is one of the big things we want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and let Vihai take care of that one there. That's
Okay.
pretty exciting thing we got going on tomorrow. And why don't you tell them all about it?
Well, tomorrow we got our trade deadline special, and we are going to be talking to a solid list of GMs around the league while we count down to the trade deadline and then take you right past it and kind of clean things up after they happen. And, you know, as trades come in, we'll keep up with those on the show. The list of GMs that we have coming on tomorrow, we got Vibes coming on at 4:10. J Claus is following him at 4:25. We got Beefy coming on at 4:35. Those are the Wolves, Ice Hogs, and Wolfpack, respectively. Barris and Live by Sin are coming on together at 4:45 tomorrow night. These are all Eastern times, guys. Ryan from the Rochester Americans tentatively will be on at 5 o'clock. 4-H Pestilence will be on following him, followed by Devil's Pride. Cosmo, Chicken Biscuit from the Manitoba Moose, and Fade Aqua from the Utica Comets at 5:50. So we're going to, you know, get opinions from these guys, what they're seeing, what's kind of going on as we're heading into the playoffs, what they're doing to finalize their rosters, as after tomorrow at 5 Eastern we won't be able to make any moves other than call-ups and send-downs from the training camp as you head into the playoffs. So the job is to finish your team by tomorrow if it's not finished yet, because you're going to be out of time and you won't be able to make any moves.
No, yeah, it's strictly lateral movements after tomorrow. Within team, bringing players up and down from the roster to the training camp and vice versa. So it's going to be an interesting show tomorrow. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. Even if there's not many moves made, it's going to be good to get a lot of these GMs in here and chat with them and, you know, just kind of get their feelings on the season and how their team is shaping up heading into the playoffs and finalizing the season here and getting ready to go to the show. You know, it's going to be a fun show. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be something new for us to connect with all those people. It's going to be very interesting, that's for sure, trying to coordinate all that. But I have full confidence in our producer, Sibs. You know, he gets it done pretty well. And I think we'll be able to get. I think we'll do all right, even if there is a couple hiccups. Hey, it is what it is. It's a live show, so you know anything can happen. But I think it's going to be a great show. I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing it, and you know, make sure you have a full pot of coffee on because we're going to be here a while.
It's going to be an hour longer than our normal show, but actually only like probably 30 minutes because we usually go long anyway.
Considering the last few shows, yeah. You know, one question I want to ask you guys. We're going to have a trade show tomorrow, but, you know, Mike, you kind of alluded to it before. once this happens, then that puts so much more emphasis on the training camp team and those guys that are down there, because after tomorrow at 5 o'clock, if you need something and you're having issues with players, or there's somebody who's not going to be available for a while, you're going to really have to concentrate on who do you have down there, who are you familiar with, what how well are they going to fit in, and that the trade deadline it's one thing about getting all these guys on trade, but it really then swings all the emphasis on the training camp roster and what you can get out of them.
Absolutely. It's, which is why, I mean, for us, and I'm sure there's a lot of other teams out there that do it, but, for the most part, we try and keep in touch with our training camp guys. We try to always, sometimes it's hard, because weeks go by and you get so busy during the week, especially if things aren't going too well. You're constantly trying to, move things around and do different things and make sure that people are getting to games on time, make sure things are getting done on time. But, we always try and keep in touch with at least a core group of the training camp guys that we would use for ECUs, that we would just call up to fill spots. We're always constantly playing games with them, doing drops, playing club with them, and keeping them involved as best we can, and also making sure that those guys are getting in touch and are in touch with their CHL GMs as well, so they're not just sitting there not getting any regular games in or regular time in. It's good for them to have somebody that they're in touch with on their CHL team and hopefully be playing on a regular basis there too, which makes it a heck of a lot easier. But I could kind of see a little bit, maybe the CHL GMs are probably starting to sweat just a little bit right now because they might be having another haul of guys getting called up off their teams. But it's like it's good to build your players down there and keep track of them, and just like they do in the real world. It's good to keep track of the guys and reach out to them and see how their season's going and if they're getting playing time. And I think it's super cool that we have that, and it's going to do nothing but improve this league that we do have the CHL.
Now, I'm genuinely asking this question because I really don't know what the ruling is this season. But last season, there was a point where there were guys coming back down from the NHL teams and helping out the AHL squad through the playoffs. What is the ruling for this season? Is that something that is still possible to happen, and how is that going to work?
I believe so. I believe that is still, that's going to be the same every season. It's, I believe the way it worked last year is that anybody who was, possibly out of the playoff race, or, when we got up to playoff time, last season we were a week behind the NHL. So it really worked out well for them that they could send the guys back. But I believe it's going to be the same way this week as well, or this season as well. Excuse me. They're going to be able to send guys down. If they're out of the playoff hunt and their AHL team is looking like they might be making a push here and may need a piece here or there, as long as they are an amateur, I believe they are waiver exempt, so they can be sent back down to the AHL to help out there as well. But they do have to be an amateur, I believe.
I'm pretty sure I did see that too. There was a message from I want to say it was McDonald, kind of outlining how that worked. Though I don't have it handy, but I'm pretty sure I did see that. I think the trade deadline special tomorrow will also give you a chance to get some insight from these GMs on their teams. It's not just going to be asking these GMs, what kind of moves did you make? Why did you make them? It'll be, things like, how's your team looking, or how are you feeling about your team heading into the final 3 weeks of the season? And you're going to get some insight into the locker room of, 10 teams, 1/3 of the league, from the general managers themselves. And I think that's really cool that we're going to be able to bring people on tomorrow and give people a chance to hear someone other than us for once. It's going to be pretty cool. So I'm really excited about that. And, who knows what we're going to see tomorrow as far as moves. You could see anything. You could see one or two small moves made, training camp players here or there. You could see a huge move made. You never know, and we're not going to hear about it ahead of time. There are no Pierre LeBruns running in this league or anybody like that to give us breaking news. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens.
It's going to be good to put names, I guess, voices to names, I guess. It's going to be good to finally hear some of these guys, hear their voice, hear what they're all about, and really, just get a good feel for who they are and, what their team's all about. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But let's transition over to the poll question, Jonathan. What do we have up for the poll question this week?
Well, the poll question this week's a little bit different. I know last night you signed up for your first time to play Friday Night Puck, and it kind of got us thinking about other things that we can do. So the poll question is, would you be interested in a best of 3 16-team Weekend Warriors tournament Friday and Saturday? Kind of like Friday Night Puck, but a little bit longer, and a best 2 out of 3 series tournament. I put yes, hell yes, or no, I'm busy enough. And so far, it's 13 votes to 4 on yes, hell yes. It's 76.5%. It's kind of the boat that I'm sitting in. That's where I voted. I'm
Which
down
one's
for
winning?
something like that.
Hell yes is winning?
Yes, hell yes is winning.
Yeah, that's, Friday Night Puck, that was my first experience with that last night. I'd heard people talking about it, for the last, I believe last night was the 4th season. It was interesting. It was super interesting. It's kind of a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. We had the unfortunate draw of getting the Buffalo Sabres last night in Friday Night Puck, who was captained by King Clutch. He was their center. Easton 17 was their left wing. Cush Demon QC was their right wing. Who was it? Sean the Boss was their left D. Kendrick Brissett was their right D. And Bernatchez was their goalie, but they were a strong team. They put the boots to us in the first game, they really came out and got on top of us in the first period. We took a couple of a bad penalty and got scored on pretty quick, and then gave up another one, which really put us behind the 8 ball. Totally got outplayed in the first 2 periods, and then we started to find our feet, in the 3rd period, which was just a little bit too little, too late. Luckily, for us, for our egos, the team that we did lose to did go on and win the whole thing. And I believe, if I remember correctly, someone may have told me that was the 2nd week in a row that King Clutch won the Friday Night Puck tournament. So, it was a great experience. So I'd like to see it expanded. I'd like to see, especially with the off season that's going to be coming up. I'd love to see more of those. Or, I was even asking in the shout box earlier today about, the World Cup, or if they were thinking about having like the World Cup, or they do some kind of Can-Am or something. But, I'd like to see them do something like that for the off season. The Weekend Warrior thing, I think, would be an amazing, little 16-team round-robin tournament that we could run. That's the beauty of LG, if you ask me. I mean, that's the beauty of it. There's always people willing to play games. There's always people willing to get together. And to have little games within the games, I think it's just another reason why I love this site so much.
Yeah, I agree. What do you want to say there, Sibs?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I didn't get a chance to play yesterday, but I see guys every Thursday night, Friday during the day in the chat box talking about it. Who's going to join up? Who's going to be part of it? I think there's obviously the league, all these leagues give everybody time to do other stuff on a Friday and Saturday night, but there are a lot of guys who may not have any plans and want to just keep on playing and get better. And I think Friday Night Puck and anything else that might come down the road in the next the next season or so. If they want to do something like Mike suggests around Robin, I think that's a great idea. And I think there's always something. You could do a Saturday Night Puck to start with and see how that turns out. You guys could talk more about, or Mike could talk more about the type of reception we got yesterday, but it just seems like there are a lot of guys out there who want to play and keep on playing.
Oh yeah, I think there was over 115 people signed up for it, and there was only 16 teams, and you're looking at 6 to 7 people per team. I don't know why you'd draft more than 6, but
205, I believe, was the final count.
Wow.
But there was about probably 45 of them, including me, that signed up a couple minutes too late, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so right there, you got well over 100 at least that have signed up for something like that, which it left a lot of people on the outside looking in. But I think that's just something that's super cool about this. Even if because I'm sure it is a lot for Triz to go in and maybe create these things and come up with the buttons up at the top that you can click and go to these things and organize them. But I'd even be up for like what guys were trying to do before the season and trying to organize kind of a preseason tournament that they were trying to organize just on their own outside of the LG. That was really cool, and that's something that I could definitely see this community doing and getting going. Just because we're all hockey players. We like it's for a lot of us, hockey is our life, and it's for me, it's all I think about all day. Not necessarily just the video game, but hockey itself, the game, is something that I think about on a daily basis. So I always have things to do that are hockey related in my life, and to have this website out there with these tournaments and all this stuff, I think is just fantastic, and it's it's nothing but super fun to me, and I'm sure a lot of others. But with that being said, everybody check it out, Friday Night Puck. Sign up for it. See if you can't get yourself a squad going. Maybe sign up to be a captain. See if you can't draft some of your friends and get together and go against some of the top players in this league. I promise you will get in there and you'll be like, damn, these guys are good. And it'll do nothing but improve your game. So, but Friday Night Puck, check it out. We're gonna go on and do what's that?
On that point, you don't have to just draft your friends. You can get on and draft the guys that you see playing across the league that you've never gotten a chance to play with. You can draft them and get a chance to play games with some of these guys too that you otherwise wouldn't get the chance to do so.
Absolutely, for sure. We're going to move on to our power rankings, which is something we do every week. We go through who our standout players were, who the site thought were the standout players of the week. Sometimes ours are a little different from what the site thinks. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our power rankings and our standout players of the week and go ahead with our 3 stars. But we're going to go ahead and kick this segment off with the goalies like we usually do. And we're going to kick it over to Sibs if he's ready to go on the goalies. What do you think over there, Sibs? You ready to go on the goalies?
Yeah. It's funny because typically I don't agree with the power rankings. I'm usually a little bit different. Yeah, I'm usually a little bit different with what's been put out there for it. Mainly because I think sometimes some of the numbers get skewed a little bit, and they tend to go more with wins and losses, but not necessarily some of the other numbers that you would look at. This week, I actually do agree with the top 3 rankings. Number 3 would be O'Neill 15, who we talked about last week. He went 5-1, 2.27 goals against. Had a shutout, and Albany just in general played well this week. Again, how much they can ride him and continue to keep themselves in the playoff hunt, we'll have to see how long that happens. Newfie Kanata, who we'll have on this week on the goaltending show that we're doing on the 16th. For the Wild, again, 5-1 with a 2.09 goals against, and his play has been improving as his overall team play has been improving. The Wild are showing that they're better than than they showed a little bit early in the season. They're playing well of late, and again, I think goaltending, you get good solid goaltending the way Newfie's been doing it lately, and he can carry you a long way. Number one star, San Jose 0-1, a perfect 5-0 record, 1.66 goals against for his week, and I had a chance to look at a couple of the games that he played this week, and I was pretty impressed with Rochester in general and with the way he played. He had 21 saves in that 3-1 victory over Chicago earlier this week. And so his play has been getting better and better. He was a bit erratic, but had good games earlier in the season. But now he's starting to show that he is able to produce time in and time out, and that's just making this Americans team even stronger. So San Jose 0-1 with the number one star overall. A couple of other guys to mention. Apex Predator coming back and having a good week this week. He had a couple of so-so games the week before, but has played well this past week at 5-1. Rancher again, he's up there at 2-1 record, 2 goals against. Hopefully he gets more time in nets for the Falcons. He again another one of the solid goaltenders that we see time and time again. Trouble Kid 1999 also for the Pirates, 2-1-1, 2.78 goals against, and that team has been playing well and keeping up with the big boys, and if they keep on getting a good goaltending like they did from Trouble Kid, then I think they'll stay up there. But I agree with the top 3 this week, guys. I think LG hit it hit the nail on the head with this one.
That's interesting. I think it's a computer, obviously, that does it. But just Trouble Kid, he plays for the Senators, right? Is that the Senators goalie, or is that? I think he does. Trouble Kid 1999.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Senators, but no big deal there. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that Barris and Live by Sin got their credit there for their guy.
I'm sure
or we'll hear about it.
We'll hear about it
tomorrow on the show.
Any second now.
What do you think of them defensemen there, Jonathan? How'd they do this week?
Solid week for defense. I mean, there is, for the entire list for the league of the top 20 defensemen, I'm showing 1 regulation loss and 1 overtime loss for the entire list of 20 that the league put on here for the Who's Hot defense. It looks like Guapo for Wilkes-Barre Scranton had the largest week, and I'm imagining that Cash 006 might have been his line mate for at least 2 of those games because they're 1 and 2 here. Guapo had 10 points, 9 assists, and a goal, and he's plus 15 on the week, 3.3 points a game average, which I don't know how many times I'm going to say it on here, but 3 points a game as a defenseman is an incredible point total on average to get. So that's a solid week there. Then you got Capone 187 for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. He was a +4 with 4 points this week, and he didn't take any penalties, which is huge. Then you have VNM 25 for the Syracuse Crunch, I believe. It's hard to see that logo. It is the Crunch because it's the only logo I have trouble seeing. 4 points, he was a +5, 2 points a game. He only played 2 games. Starting to see on the power rankings here that there's each week on defense anyway, there's been some new names creeping up the board. Chef Burns is a solid defenseman, as everyone knows, with the Phantoms. He's up there, but ZD Ball from Rochester, who, as Sib said, had an incredible week this week. Fried Pickle 19. The other one that really stuck out to me was the Killer 9879 from the Lake Erie Monsters. That's the team that 6 weeks ago I said watch out for, and they've definitely, they started off with a tough first week, but they've really rebounded and climbed up the leaderboards, and The killer 9879 has been a big part of that. He's one of the league's higher scoring defensemen. He had 10 points this week and was a +7. He was the only other defenseman on this list that had 3 points a game. Angry Dangler 17's up there. He had a solid week. He's a friend of the show, friend of the show, Hershey, and friend of the Hershey Bears. I also started to notice that I'm seeing a good mix of teams on here. When I look at this list, for the first several weeks, you were seeing Gulls, Ice Hogs, Wolves up here, but now you're seeing the Monsters, the Phantoms. The Phantoms, I gotta hand it to them. They've been having a hell of a run lately. They've put a solid few weeks together, and now they're starting to get some hot defensemen up in the top of the list. I'm sure when we go to the forwards, you might see one of them in there too. But there's a good mix of teams in here now. The Griffins are represented on the board. The Bridgeport Sound Tigers are up here. St. John's Ice Caps. So we're starting to get a lot of new names on here, which is really fun for us preparing for the show. You get to pop into the power rankings and see these guys, and you're like, oh, look at that, bunch of new names. Now, are we doing our star of the week right now, or is that coming next?
We're going to do that when we're done with this segment here.
Okay, so I just want to say then I do believe that the league will only give out their 3 stars on people who played all 3 of their games. So if you only played 2 games, they do not give you a medal next to it.
Correct.
Which I think is fair. And their 3 stars were Guapo, Off-Road 6901 of the Griffins. Guapo was from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. And Chef Burns of the Phantoms. Those were the league's top 3.
Interesting. Yeah, that's definitely something that they do. If you only were part of 2 games or even 1 game in the week, even if you blew up that 1 game or those 2 games, you would not be eligible for the league's 3 stars of the week. Moving on to the offensive players. This week, there are some new names up at the top. Jake Claus went 3-0 on the week, but he picked up 10 points, which is,
Weak.
A little out of the ordinary for him. But, I'm going to go right in, and I'm going to jump right in with CF Fairman. He's a good friend of mine. He's really hit the ground running since he's got out to Chicago and been playing with a friend of his, JLM. They just seem to really click together as a duo, and it seems like on a weekly basis now they're both up here in the Who's Hot forwards, and I got to give it to him. I got to hand it to him. Fairman went 3-0 again this week. Put up 16 points, 10 of those being goals. He was a +11, averaging 5.3 points a game. That's really solid out of him. That's very, very good out of him, and I'm glad to see him doing so well. Another guy that I wanted to mention, and I'm sure, Jay Claus isn't going to be very happy that I mentioned him because I hear that he gets this guy really, really likes to hear his name called. So we're going to go with Rhino. Rhino1354 had a great week. Tore it up. Went 3-0 on the week. Was part of a 15-5 game against the team, and put up 8 points in that game. 5 goals, 3 assists. Was a +11. Get this: 5 shots, 5 goals. 100% shooting percentage in that game alone, which is insane. He had another game where he did put up a couple of goals and an assist, and then a hat trick and an assist in another game. All 3 victories. Rhino has just been tearing it up this year, having a great year. The thing that just strikes me as odd, and this happened last year, when you look over his news, he was traded. He was traded at the end of April, which is super weird to me. The guy's been tearing it up, but hey, I guess sometimes you do trade people. Look at we moved Fairman, but that's just another day, another story. But it is good to see Rhino. He's constantly at the top of the leaderboards throughout the weeks, and he's having a great season. He's 15-2-1 on the season with 74 points, and he's a plus 47. So how can you go wrong there? Next guy on my list, yeah.
He'll tell you in the shout box, if you want to know how his week was. If you want to know how that week was, just go read the shout box.
That
the
is for sure.
Shout box.
But hey, you know what? That's credit well deserved. He's having a great season. Next guy for me is Ruckashan NHL. Another guy from the Griffins. Griffins are a team that are kind of slowly starting to get their feet under them. They did have a rough start in the beginning of the season. Not too bad. They kept themselves above water. But, they're really starting to find their stride here as we get through the meat of the season here. And, I think the Griffins are definitely a team that could be getting hot at the right time. They're currently sitting in a playoff spot. And Ruckshawn had a great week this week. He put up, he won all 3 of his games. He did have 16 points on the week, but the thing I like, and most people who know me know that this is something that I like, is he did put up 16 points, 8 goals, 8 assists. So he's doing everything. He's moving the puck to his teammates. He's putting the puck in the net. That's just, I love seeing when a player has just as many goals as assists. That means they're not hogging the puck. That means that they're not, they're playing hockey. They're moving the puck. They're having fun. They're getting their teammates involved. So, it's really good to see somebody. And he's only played 7 games in the league this season. So he was a late call up from the CHL. And he's starting to really, really put together some good games here. He's 4-1 in his last 5. He's 6-1 on his season. He had 2 hat tricks this week. And another thing that I like, not a single penalty taken this week. He's only taken 2 penalties on the season. So, Ruckshawn NHL, I'm sorry if I'm messing your name up there. Some of these names are kind of tough to see. And then my other guy, my number 1 guy is RV Clutch. Excuse me, I got to take a drink here, y'all. For anyone who doesn't know me, I had a wisdom tooth pulled this week, and it's just brutal.
Which is kind of funny because Mike doesn't necessarily show a lot of wisdom most of the time. So.
They're all gone now. So
you beat me to the punch, Sibs. I was gonna say what little wisdom he had left, they took from him.
They did. They stole it from me this week, and it sucks. Let me tell you.
So
you got any wisdom?
That explains why. That explains why you were a little more surly than typical then.
Oh boy, I'll tell you what. But my number 1 guy this week on the offensive side of the game is RV Clutches. This guy, I watched the game. He plays for the Texas Stars. He's a left wing for them, and we have had the excellent experience of playing them this week, and we stream all of our games so we can watch the games and see what's going on, and just keep involved, keep everybody on our team involved. And this guy has some moves. He has some moves. Put up 5 goals and a couple assists against us, and 8-5 victory there. He went 3-0 on the week, 16 points, 12 of them goals. Did not take a single penalty all week. He had a hat trick in 1 game, 5 goals, 2 assists in another, and then a 4-goal and 1 assist game. He is just getting it done out there, and it looks like that they're really starting to get a little bit of that magic back that they had in the beginning of the season out there in Texas, and Clutch is definitely one of the big reasons why. There are some other guys up here on the list that I definitely wanted to point out. Headhunter had 19 points on the week. That's an amazing job. The only reason he's not sitting at the top is because they did have 1 loss. But, he was a plus 14 on the week, 6.3 points a game. That's outstanding. He's having a pretty good go at it there for the Milwaukee Admirals. Kraz is up here. He put up 11 points. It was 3-0 on the week, as well as JLM. I did mention JLM earlier. JLM had 14 points this week, was 3-0. 4 goals, plus 12. They're really starting to find their stride over there in Chicago as well. But overall, pretty good week for the forwards. We're starting to see it slow down a little bit from the 25 almost 30-point weeks that Jake Laws was having there for a little while. But there's some new names showing up here in the top forwards, and that's good to see. It's good to see, like Jonathan said, it's good to see some other guys starting to get known and get up in there into the top. And the Griffins. The Griffins are a team. Like I went back and looked at their last couple of weeks here. Like I said, they did start off shaky, but they've put together a couple of good weeks in a row here, and I think they're starting to really find their stride as a team. So anybody who's going to be playing the Grand Rapids Griffins in the next little bit here, know that you're going to be in for a very tough game. And with that, I guess we'll kick it back to Sibs and get who his number one star goalie of the week is.
Well, before we do that, let me just I just saw something from Gonzo Armstrong in the chat box, and this time it's actually constructive. He said, I guess he was talking about RV Clutch. He was talking to you, Mike. He said he had a 4-0 week. He ECU'd for the NHL as well.
Oh, wow.
So apparently he lit it up pretty damn well this week, and he's going to make a name for himself. And so that's.
You weren't supposed to mention Gonzo on the show all year, Sibs. Just so you know.
Oh, darn. How much do I owe you guys?
We'll talk later.
That's good, though. Yeah, I mean, so he was 4-0 on the week, tearing it up, man. That kid's got some serious skill. He's definitely got thunder thumbs for sure. But that being said, what do you got for the goaltender over there, Sibs?
Well, I think, again, I have to agree with the way the rankings fell, and I think San Jose 01 gets my number one star overall. Like I said, he is just getting better and better, and is a real asset to his team at this point. And again, I was a little, I watched some of his games earlier in the season, and I was, I saw a different goaltender a couple of different times, but I think consistency is now starting to be mastered by San Jose, and I think this past week he showed it. He's a number one goaltender, number one star in my book.
Awesome. So for me, my moving on over to defense, my number one star, I'm kind of right in line with Sibs here. The site got it right this week for me. Guapo from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins is my number one star of the week. When you go over and look at this guy, he's new to the league this season, I believe. Give me 1 second. Yes, he's new to the season this year. I'm sorry. Did I say this week? He is 10-3-1 in his first season in this league. In 14 games, he's got 16 points, so he's better than a point a game as a D-man. But, of course, this week he got 10 of those points. So 3 points a game, really turned up his game this week. And he's a plus 24, which is big in 14 games. He's got 3 goals, 13 assists on the season. His shooting percentage is 25%, so, as a defenseman, he's scoring once out of every 4 times he shoots from the point. I might say Wilkes-Barre Scranton, send that puck to the point a little bit more often. This guy finds his way through. His last 5 games, he is 4-1. They beat the Manitoba Moose, the Portland Pirates, the Hershey Bears, the Hartford Wolfpack. They beat the Pirates 14-4. That's a hell of a game, and he was a plus 6 in that game. He had 3 assists. And then against the Moose, he had three assists and 1 goal. And then the game before that against the Hershey Bears, he had 3 assists. So, this guy had a super solid week, and he is definitely at a plus 15 for the week with 10 points, my number one star.
I would be interested to see, if anybody could tell us, or maybe if he could tell us himself, is with him scoring 1 out of every 4 shots that he's taken, I'm curious if he's getting those seeing eye wrist shots through to the net, which seem to be very, very effective sometimes. If you can just flip a wrister in towards the net, you never know what's going to happen. If you get it in there slow, people have a chance to deflect it and get those pucks, get traffic in front. You see defensemen a lot of times always looking for the slap shot, always looking for the home run bomb, when that necessarily isn't always the one that goes in. Usually you'll find that the ones that go in from the point are those wristers, those seeing eye wristers that just kind of find their way through the traffic into the back of the net.
Yeah.
That being said,
he also has only taken 3 penalties this year.
There you go. That being said, I'm going to go right to RV Clutch again. Knowing that he did sit in for the NHL kind of puts him over the top for me this week. He did sit in for the NHL against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he had a hat trick and an assist in that game as well, en route to a 5-4 victory over Columbus. So RV Clutch gets my first star of the week this week. He had a great week. That puts him up at 20 points on the week in 4 games. That's a solid week. He picked up a victory in the NHL as well. He's on fire. He's having a very, very good stretch of games here. They stumbled a little bit, there, but I think Texas is back on the right path, and they got some good things going out there in Texas again. That being said, that's our 3 stars and our power rankings for the week, and we are going to move on to the standings and the current playoff race.
Top 10.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess you can go ahead and run through your top 10 as well. Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Top 10 for league.
Yep. Just real quickly, because this has been a request from multiple people, and it's something I've been wanting to do as well. So I'm going to start with forwards and start with points, go through the top 10 point leaders this season, top 10 goal scorers, assist leaders, and then do the same for the goalies. So with the points, in second place, I'm just kidding. In first place, we have J. Claus 33. He's got 96 points, which is just unbelievable to me. He's 17-1 on the year, 54 goals, 42 assists. Your number 2 point getter is Mr. Shoutbox himself, Rhino 1354, has 74 points on the year. 36 goals, 38 assists. He's 15-2-1. Kraz, and if you noticed a trend here, the top 3 guys are all from the Ice Hogs. Kraz 18.
They all play on the same line?
I do believe they do.
We could ask Claus that tomorrow.
Right. I do believe they.
Yeah, no, Rhino typically does not play with Claus
He plays in the second.
And Kraz, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, is I didn't think he did. I think he played a couple games with him this year, though, early on. But Kraz has 69 points, 29 goals, 40 assists, and he's 14-0 on the season. In fourth place, we have JLM 1410. He's got 68 points. He's got 24 goals and 44 assists, and if you ask him, he'll tell you a lot of those 44 assists have been feeding our number 6 guy on the list, C. Fairman 7. But before him, we have Fat Gilly, who's got 62 points. He's got 31 goals and 31 assists. He's 10-7-1. And then at number 6, you have Fairman, who's got 62 points, 34 goals, 28 assists, and he's really turned it up since he got to the Wolves. And then you got Toffoli at 61 points, 22 goals, 39 assists. He's 10-5-3. And then at number 8, you got Big Beefy 013. I'm sure most people know who he is. He's got 25 goals, 35 assists. He's 12-6. And then number 9 is Killer Santo, or Killers Anto, 59 points, 22 goals, 37 assists. He's 15-1 on the year. And then Danny K, 23.99 at 58 points, 22 goals, 36 assists. Those are your top 10 point leaders in the league this year. And then top 10 goal scorers, you got J. Claus at 54, Rhino at 36, Fairman at 34, Bob Swagger at 34, Broski 02 at 34. Timmy Z 30 at 32 goals. Fat Gilly at 31. Carlson MVP at 31 goals. Junior DC 9 at 30 goals, and Ransom 613, friend of the show, 30 goals as well. Your top 10 assist leaders, JLM's got 44, and like I said, I'll tell you what got him up there. J Claus is in second on this list. I want to take a moment here and just recognize that at 42. Kraz is at 42 behind J Claus, 4 behind our leader. Toffoli's got 39 in fourth place. Rhino's got 38 in fifth place. Strength Legacy Senior has 38 in sixth place. Killer Santo has 37 in seventh place. In eighth place, we have Danny K at 36. In 9, I thought this guy was long gone, but in ninth place, we got John Gotti, 47, with 36, and then Big Beefy rounding out the top 10 with 35. Moving on to the defensemen, the top 10 defensemen point getters are Stibby 66 from the Gulls at 38 points. In second, we got QC Chief 27 at 35 from the Amerks. Ultimate Aquaman's got 28 points along with Fu Man Cheesy from the Wolves, and Mixter V277 from the Gulls. The Killer 9879 has 26 points. Ether MR from the Wolves has 26 points. Sean the Boss 1 has 26. Trev Sport and Trev Sport's got 24 points, and Weed Farmer from the Wolfpack has 23. Yeah, these names are pretty funny sometimes. And then your top 10 goal-scoring defensemen are J Nasty 19 with 10, Ultimate Aquaman with 8, Stivy 66, Fu Man Cheesy, and Kraka 1974 at 7. Joseph Valeno Me, Goober Dude 99, and General Patton each have 6 goals. Those are 6th, 7th, and 8th. Mixter V277 and Ugly Rabbit have 5 each. That's your top 10 goal-scoring defensemen. And then for your top leading assists for defensemen, you got QC Chief 27, 33, Stivy 66 at 31, Sean the Boss 1 at 25, Ether MR at Mister at 25. You have Mixter V277 and the Killer 9879 at both at 23. In 7th, you have Weed Farmer with 22. In 8th, you have Fu Man Cheesy. In 9th and Burger, they both have 21. And then rounding out the top 10 is Ultimate Aquaman with 20 assists. And those are your top 10 points, goals, and assist leaders for your Season 2 here in the LGAHL.
There you have it. Moving on to the standings and playoff race. In the Eastern Conference currently, we have the Rochester Americans. They were running away with it quite heavily. They still are. They are 40-10-4 on the season, sitting with 84 points. The Wolfpack is 9 points behind them, sitting in second place currently in the Eastern Conference with 75 points, 37-16-1 on the season. The Syracuse Crunch are sitting at 74 points. They're right behind the Wolfpack, and they are both in the same division. Or no, wait, excuse me, no, they aren't. But they are just both nipping right at each other's heels. You got the Senators sitting in fourth with 67 points. They're 31-18-5 on the season. You got the Pirates sitting in right after them with 65 points, 32-21-1 on the season. And here's where it gets interesting. You got the Bruins, who have 58 points on the season. They're 27-23-4. All right, they're sitting in the 6th seed currently. In the 7th seed, you have the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins with 55 points. And they are 27-26-1 on the season. And then in following them up in the 8th seed is the Albany Devils with 64 points.
Wow.
And a 29, 19, and 6 record on the season. And for anybody that does not know why that's like that, we've gone over this before. It is the top 3 teams in each division, and then a wild card from each division as well. So there could be a team sitting in 6th, 7th that has less points than a team sitting in 8th. It's kind of a weird setup, but you know what? It kind of opens things up, and it gives teams that are, maybe in a tougher division a little bit more of a chance at making the playoffs instead of just getting run out of town by a division that might have, not saying that it does or anything, but, may have a little bit tougher teams. We were talking about this earlier, and, there's the Eastern Atlantic Division, just in of itself, you've got basically the bottom 5 teams in that division are only separated by 10 points. That's crazy. There's so much interesting things that could happen right there in search of those final 2 spots in the Eastern Atlantic. That could be very interesting with as many teams that are so close. Wilkes-Barre Scranton's sitting at 55 points. You got Bridgeport sitting at 55 points. The Phantoms sitting at 52. Falcons sitting at 47, and we're sitting at 45. But, nothing's said and done yet. There's still opportunities for teams to make the playoffs coming out of the Eastern Atlantic. For sure, that's going to be one heck of a battle to watch going in to crunch time here. The Western playoff race, Sibs, you want to go ahead and take a look at the Western Conference and tell us who's hot over there and what the playoffs are shaking up to look like?
Yeah, but I'm going to do it without a camera because I think we're having some some issues with bandwidth. So plus I'm saving the folks a horrible visual. On the Western side, of course, you got the Ice Hogs who are up top with 85 points, 42, 11, and 1. And the Wolves right behind them with 75 points. The Rampage and the Monsters, all 3 of them, Wolves, Rampage, and Monsters with 75 points each. And then you get right to the goals, and so with 71. So those top 5 teams are pretty bunched together. And then after that, it's a more of a race between the Barracuda, who have 60 points, the Griffins with 50, and the Stars now with 59 because they are 4th in their division, and they are playing better and better in this division. Texas on a 5-game winning streak of late. They're 28, 23, and 3. And actually, Texas, I believe, has won. Let me just check my notes here. I think they had won. I don't have it here, but I thought they had won a few games before that as well. So they are a hot team with the longest win streak, I believe, right now. And they are playing better and better. We played them recently, and they showed some tremendously good goaltending as usual from Apex, and an offense that looked like they were clicking very well. Passing well and getting off the right shot. So the Stars right at that last position and fighting hard for it. You've got the Condors at 55, and then a bit of a drop off to the Moose and the Wild at 48 and 47 points. The Admirals at 46, and then the Heat and the Reign 44 and 42 points, and the Checkers at 29 with their 12 wins on the season. Rough season for the Checkers. The Heat playing a little bit better now, moving up a little bit. But again, you've got some teams above them who still have a shot. The Condors, like I said, with 55 points, knocking on the door and could very well be in this playoff race when it comes down to it. But right now, the Ice Hogs on top, and it'll be interesting to see how that threesome of the Wolves, the Rampage, and the Monsters, all at 75 points, how that all pans out. We've been talking about Lake Erie for a little while, and they just keep beating good teams every week, and they are. A couple of weeks ago, I might have said they could be a team that might sneak in, but I actually think now they are a team who is a legitimate contender, and they're right up there with the rest of the big boys in the West.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, they're definitely making a name for themselves. That's to be sure. They just continue to be good team after good team after good team. There you have it. That's your standings and playoff race throughout the AHL. It's good to see some of those teams starting to creep up in there. There's some interesting races that are starting to develop. Like we said, we think Texas is kind of on the rebound here. They had just a god-awful week last week, and I'm sure Thorpe wasn't very happy about that, but it seems like he's got his guys back on the right path here. And I'm sure he's found some of those good glue guys to fit his team and really get the job done, which brings us to our next segment, and that is our unsung heroes. Each week we ask GMs to please message us, get the info to us so we can talk about these guys. You can get in touch with me on Skype GMs. You can send me PlayStation messages. Same thing with VHI. Get this information to us so we can have these unsung heroes, which is our next segment. We can give these guys recognition because these guys deserve the recognition. They may not have the flashy stats and all the flash and dash of some of these other players, but they're definitely necessary players to have a good team. So what do you got over there, VHI? What have they sent you this week?
Well, I want to start with the Charlotte Checkers, who are having a rough go at it this year. And, I was talking to Cosmo a little bit about this because he really feels like he's letting his team down this year, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on. But he nominated two guys. He nominated Travis Dorcas 420 and Primetime. So basically, Travis Dorcas 420 has been with them since bidding. The team has had struggles, and he remains positive through the entire thing. He's a glue guy. He keeps everybody together. He always does what is necessary for the team, for victory or for what they're trying to do to get their things implemented across the board. So he's getting practices together and things like that. And then Primetime does everything at his best on the ice. And Cosmo's AGM had to quit for personal reasons, and Primetime stepped up on a weekend, filled his spot when Cosmo was out of town, and he did an amazing job getting players together to help them get back on track and made the lines for the week. After the AGM had quit and Cosmo was gone, he took over that role and got that done for him, which that fits perfectly into this category for sure. We know how tough that is to do even when it is your job. So he said, this is a quote from Cosmo, "These two players have made a huge impact on the team, and with myself struggling in net, I'm not sure where we would be without them." So that's good. That's big kudos coming from the GM over there in Charlotte for those two. Also for the St. John's Ice Caps, they nominated Hunter. He was a random assignment, and he has provided goal scoring for them in timely fashion. He always practices with teammates, and he sets up practice games on Friday nights to make sure that the lines are practicing together and getting playing time together, which is an enormous factor when you're talking about trying to get a team to get off the ground and start playing well and stringing a bunch of wins together across all three lines. That is huge.
I couldn't agree.
So, Barris had a nomination, and this one's my longest one here. He nominated this guy last week and didn't have a chance to get to him because, as usual, we go long just like we're about to now. And Vanishing Point 92 is the guy that he wanted me to nominate, or he wanted to nominate for me to tell you about. His nickname on the team is VP. He's Barris's right D partner. He was found on the training camp. He practices 1 to 3 hours every single day with his line mates or teammates, even if they're not on his line. He's available for all 9 games a week whenever needed. There's never a question of if he's going to be available when Barris needs to schedule him to play the matchup or just if he needs to switch somebody else because they can't make it. Vanishing Point is always ready. He plays the top teams week in and week out. Barris says he gets Barris gets really aggressive, and
My bad.
and he has to cover for him. He's fit right into the team cycle. He pinches at the proper time. He talks on the ice, calling out plays. He's the quarterback. His record isn't great because he's always playing the best, and he's always trying to cover for an aggressive Barris. And his Barris said his stats aren't amazing, but whoever picks him up next will be surprised at his ability to perform night in and night out. And then our last one is from the Rochester Americans, HAR84 FRM. Ryan nominated him because he's a world-class ECU, he said. He's saved the team from forfeit many times. He's always willing to help. He's not selfish. He's a very solid player and will play any position that they need him to play. And the quote from Ryan on this is, "I wish I had a roster spot for him." So those are your unsung heroes for the week. Those are perfect examples of what we're asking for here. I really like the stuff I've been getting from the GMs here, and definitely contact Mike or Sibs with your unsung hero if you want to send it to them or whoever. If you send it to me, I can get it to them if you want one of us in particular to talk about them or whatever it may be. But this is exactly what we're asking for. These are the guys that we didn't say a single one of these names when we were talking about the top 10 scorers or the best players for the week. But these are the guys that the GMs who run the team feel most comfortable with and think are a huge part of the organization and keeping them moving forward.
Yeah, we can't thank you guys enough for those suggestions. Please keep them coming in because those are guys that definitely need to get recognition throughout the league. And for anybody that doesn't know, you can send those directly to me via Skype. My Skype is actually Alright. That's ALRIGHT. Then my last name, which you see right about here, which is Moran, MO. At gmail.com. So you can get those over to me there, and we can go ahead and start getting those guys the recognition they deserve.
If they didn't hear that, it was MORAN. You cut out on my end. I don't know if it was all together, but MORAN.
There you go. Moving on to our final segment, and that is our games of the week. Last week, gentlemen, we all picked a game, and it got interesting on those games. My game last week that I chose was the Syracuse Crunch versus the Rochester Americans, and this game did not disappoint. It is a lot closer than the score shows. The Crunch ended up taking this game Americans, and the Crunch actually had a couple of ECUs in this game to boot. They didn't outshoot the Americans, they didn't out-time on attack them, but they outscored them. It looks, that's the name of the game at the end, right? Is whoever has the most goals. B Braves was the first star. Yagel was the second star, and Trev Sport was the third star of that game. That's a tight matchup between the top two teams in the Eastern Central, I believe. Is that what it is? Eastern North, excuse me. It's definitely a good game there. My game of the week this week is going to be the San Antonio Rampage versus the Rockford Ice Hogs, which could be a preview of the Western Conference Finals. You never know. Stranger things have happened. But that could be a preview of the Western Conference Final. And I'll go ahead and throw it on over to Jonathan. And how'd your game go there?
Can you hear me okay, Sibs?
Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
You're clean.
Okay.
You're clean.
Okay, so my game of the week last week was between the Ice Hogs and the Wolfpack, and this game did not disappoint. It was close all the way. Rockford and the Wolfpack went scoreless through the first, which is very good on both accounts by both teams to hold either of these two teams scoreless. Then in the second period, the Ice Hogs put up 3 goals and took a lead, and the Wolfpack got one before the end of the period. They went 3-1 into the second intermission, going into the third period. Now, in the third period, the Wolfpack won the third period. They outscored them 2-1. but the Ice Hogs got that one extra goal that put them over the top. They beat them 4-3. The Ice Hogs beat the Wolfpack 4-3 on Monday. They outshot the Wolfpack 16-12. The Wolfpack were playing a very extremely physical game, out hitting the Ice Hogs 21-5. The time on attack was pretty even, 651 to 634. I don't know if the passing stats for the Ice Hogs, I don't know if they're trying a lot of high risk passes, and maybe that they're going high risk, high reward. But their passing was 47% to the Wolfpack's 59%, which is a pretty big stat. You wouldn't expect to be almost a 20% difference, and 20% lower for the winning team, or 12%. I'm sorry. And the power plays, they each had one power play goal. The Wolfpack had 4 power play attempts and scored 1 goal. The Ice Hogs had 3 and scored 1 goal there. The power play minutes kind of overlapped each other, so there was 4-on-4 time in there. I think one of the biggest things here why the Ice Hogs won the game was they beat the Wolfpack on faceoffs 20-7, and you should win any game that you win 20-7 on faceoffs. That when you win 20-7 on faceoffs, I know the time on attack was very close, but the reason that the Ice Hogs outshot the Wolfpack was because they're starting to play with the puck more often. But that was my game of the week this week. It was an extremely well-fought game by the Wolfpack. Beefy came to me after the game and said, "Did you watch it? Did you watch it? You got to go check that out if you didn't have a chance to watch it." He was pretty excited, even though they lost, that it was a really good game. This week, my game of the week is going to be the Lake Erie Monsters on Monday night against the San Jose Barracuda. It's at 10:30 Eastern. This is going to be a big game between two division rivals, and I really can't wait to watch this. Both these teams are surging, and or conference rivals. I'm sorry. Both these teams are surging, and it's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. Devil's Pride runs the Lake Erie Monsters, as we've said before, and I'm interested to see how this game's going to go on Monday night. Sibs, what's your game of the week from last week, and what are you looking at coming forward this week?
Well, last week I was out in the West and wanted to look at the San Jose at San Antonio, figuring that we would have a really good goaltending matchup, and for the most part, even with a 5-0 San Antonio win, it still wasn't a bad, horrible defensive game on the part of San Jose. But unfortunately, they ran into Mooner, who stopped all 12 shots that were made on him. Let's Go Flyers had the hat trick. DC Stars with 2 goals, 3 assists on the night, and that's all said and done for that one. A close game in so many other parts of the game, in time and passing, penalty minutes, a few more, but nobody scored a power play goal in this one. So, I expected a little bit better defensive matchup, but the fact that it wound up 5-0 doesn't shock me. Again, with Mooner in goal, you have a chance for a shutout most every night. The game I'm going to look at, again, I'm going to stick with San Antonio, but it's the other game, the second game from Sunday night or the first game from Sunday night that I'm going to look at, and that's the Rampage at the Chicago Wolves. Again, we know what the Wolves are capable of. San Antonio has a great defense, and as we mentioned, it may very well be that JLM and Fairman might be one of the best twosomes in the league right now, and let's see if San Antonio has a defense that is able to stop a burgeoning offense, an offensive pair that Chicago has, and that also may be a good. I mentioned that may be a good poll question next week. I said just before in the chat box, maybe JLM and Fairman could be the best tandem offensive tandem in the league, and maybe that's a good poll question for next week because we have quite a few of these, these groups of guys who play well on the line, who play well as a tandem. Maybe we'll word it that way. Maybe it'll be who has the best line in the league. I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting question because we have some really good makeups of some forward lines in this league, and so I think for San Antonio, let's see how well they play. Against Chicago, and then come right back and play Rockford later on that night. That's a tough evening, for sure.
Oh man, big time. And another one I'm going to throw in there. Just keep your eye on this one, everybody. You got the Hartford Wolfpack taking on the Rochester Americans this week as well. That could very well be a preview of the Eastern Conference Finals. You never know. There's some great games going on this week between some of the division-leading teams. Get out. Get your games to the website, everybody. Make sure that you're streaming your games and, allowing people to watch these games. And let's have a good week. What do we have, week 7 here, guys?
Yeah, we're about
moving
to.
into week 7 already?
Hey,
Jeepers creepers.
Hey, Mike, I just want to bring up a couple of guys I want to mention. You mentioned B. Braves 1328. He went 1-1 this week for his team, getting called up to play a couple of games. 1.5 goals against. So he had a nice week filling in for, I believe that's Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken. And Man Solo, who was on Utica, actually gave a shout-out to Derms 18 and the way he's been playing the last 2 weeks. In Derms, I believe, he's had 2 12-point weeks in a row. For his team, the Senators, and so he's been on a hot streak lately. In terms of course, we know him for making the show graphics that we show you every week, but he's been playing really well of late. One more I want to mention very quickly, Crofto 40, getting called up to the Jets from the Moose.
Good for him. Attaboy, Crofto.
Good job.
Good friend of ours, good guy, good player, and I was very happy to see that mentioned.
Boy, that's good to hear. He's a good
Breaking
player,
news.
good guy.
I'm glad to hear that.
So that's it. That's it for me. And again, a lot of great matchups coming up this week. A lot of interesting games, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch some of these, providing we have time to watch them.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes as far as how much time we have, but. Don't forget tomorrow to join us at 4 p.m. Eastern right here on LG. We'll be having about 10 different people on to 10 different GMs around the AHL, so you can hear what they have to say. I'm really looking forward to that show. It's going to be a lot of fun. So don't forget, 4 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. Join us here on the LG. And, yes, get those streams up to the site so we can watch these games of the week without having to message personally for your Twitch account. And I guess for me, that's it. I will talk to you in about, 18 hours.
We will talk to you tomorrow.